Welcome to Lead Digest, a humble effort to showcase responsible leadership. A leadership that has not only built organizations, but also have behaved responsibly to the society and the environment around it. My guest today is Mr. Stanley George, one of the key founding promoters of Good Earth. Good Earth, we all know there is a very famous book written by Pearl S. Buck, and many of us might have read about it. It tells the story of people and connection with the nature. And Good Earth, as the name sounds, it is about a lot of goodness to the earth. It is about building sustainable communities in a different way. They would like to call it as demystifying the design process and living in harmony with the nature. And Good Earth is led by a team of multi-skilled experts from various fields they work towards integrating all the aspects of development. I think I'm in good company today. The name of your organization gives a lot of reassurance on life on Earth, especially at a time when people are busy multiplying money. And secondly, you hail from a very remarkable family, which the state of Kerala can ever forget. Your late brother Jimmy George is remembered as the best volleyball player India has ever produced. Of course, or probably he's the only sportsman in India to have a stadium named after him outside India, which is in Italy. And of course, including you, your father and your brothers had a volleyball team itself in those days. So welcome again, Stanley George, to Talk Direct and Lead Digest. So while you should have been playing football, volleyball, or some other sport, or be coaching a national team, what made you so concerned about the earth? And what is Good Earth all about?
Thank you, Jazeela, for inviting me to the conversation. I think my own bringing up in a rural background, and my family's a certain background in my father's background in politics also shaped certain certain idealism in the family. I mean, all of us have certain bit of idealist. My grandfather was into freedom struggle and was close to KLPG. All that, I think, unknowingly, though he died before me, we hear about stories about your ancestors, and
so that's new information.
So I grew up in a rural background, and it has inspired all of us that it's a very secular kind of a setting we grew up, and doing good and being upright in your work was something my father had set in all of us, to be straightforward and honest with your work. So I mean, being part of nature, in a rural thing, naturally you are connected with nature, because I grew up with the rivers and the land and agriculture and so on. There was a connect. But then it was a sheer accident. When I came to Cochin looking for a job, I met some of my friends who were actually closer to Laurie Baker and exploring, expanding his ideas of architecture and sustainable development. And for me, it was just an accident. I really picked it up because it was something I was looking for. I took a conscious decision not to seek jobs for 1 year. That was the time I started reading Gandhi's, Experiment with the Truth, more seriously. I was reading Tolstoy. I was reading Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. I was reading Ayn Rand. So I was also reading, I think it was P. Parmeshan's book on Marx and Gandhi and a lot of stuff. And so that age, you are getting into life and you are trying to explore, you have certain ideas and you want to do good. You're young and, there is an idea. And some of these things, and I lost my brother in that period also in 87. Deep incident in his life kind of brings in a certain metamorphosis in the individual, and that's something transforms you. You know, you look at life differently. You see somebody who was in the height of fame, and suddenly lose his life, and
yes,
withdraw from
we all
life.
know that. Yes,
Yeah.
we remember that.
So I was quite yeah. So when I had a different look at success and all these things, then life takes a different course, and you look at life differently with certain detachment, and it's kind of set in that point of time. And
you graduated towards the end of 1980s, and most of the engineering graduates were trying for some government job or some highly paid private job, or went for postgraduate and things like that. You chose to work with Laurie Baker, and you just mentioned that Laurie Baker was an influence. It was an inspiration for you. I still remember when we used to travel in Kerala in those days, that beautiful, unplastered brick walls, and those kind of design which merges with the nature was a very pleasing sight in those days. So, what aspect of Laurie Baker's design has inspired you, or his school of thought? It was not just design or architecture; it was also using locally available materials. It was also about living close to the nature. So what aspect of that has influenced you in thinking differently?
Baker was inspired by Gandhi. So he was deeply influenced by Gandhi, and he actually had interacted with Gandhi when he came to India as a volunteer, though he was a qualified architect. And Gandhi had a great sense of aesthetics and on decentralization and using local material. But architecture, Gandhi had a great sense and great vision on that.
It's very refreshing thought that Gandhi has helped even forming a different type of architecture.
I think Gandhi is going to help us for a long time in all fronts.
Sure, definitely.
Even in politics.
The relevance.
Gandhi, you cannot write off Gandhi from there so easily. Sure. You can't write off Gandhi from the culture.
I didn't mean that writing off, but I was amazed to know that he was an influence for Laurie Baker in going for this kind of thing.
So I had a chance to meet with Baker with our friends, and he used to interact with us. And it's a first-hand interaction with the master and how he looks at his work and architecture and construction. And something which touched me when Baker used to say, "You have no right to design unless you know how to construct." I think it's a very strong statement for any designer. You must know what is going to happen in execution. And if you don't get into execution, your design is flawed, or it is become better superficial. That is what Baker was trying to say. And he was a very hands-on guy. I mean, that all influenced us. And coming from my own background, I'm a hands-on guy, coming from agriculture and rural. And Baker's approach is very simple, straightforward, who go to the site and, work with the people and build with them. And he himself was a craftsman. And that kind of influenced all of us. And I think it was influenced a lot of people. And his idea of architecture using local material and local skill it really appealed to me. And Baker always used to say, you use more labor because India has so much population, and you don't bring technology unless if you use employment opportunity, you should be careful. And for example, if you build an art, it uses more labor, but if you use a concrete beam, it uses more metal. So for Baker, it made a lot of sense to use more skill of the people, build with more labor component. Because it creates employment that's more sustainable instead of using a high-tech material or technology. And that I think that is really touched us.
These days we talk about robotic action and all. So this is
So So we were never pulled to that kind of fancy using more robotics and stuff, because this is very real. You have people and you work with the people and create employment. That sounded great to us, and that was a big influence, because wherever it's all controlled by the design. If you design certain way, it can use more labor or use more material. You can use a high energy intense material or low energy material. Everything is controlled by design. Design matters. So we started in Cochin. Our first development was in Cochin. Then we did a couple of more. Yes. So we could actually slowly, also once you, as a developer, you are far more responsible with your ideas, because it has to survive. And you have to take care of the maintenance. I have found that many alternate ideas, it failed because you don't take responsibility fully. Because anytime you can say anything about doing with mud, or we are built with all sort of material and ideas, but then end of the day, it has to be practical for the end user, because you are leaving the scene. You shall not create something which is difficult to maintain or complicated, or So our first project was a circular structure, about 17 houses. I mean, some of us also own house there. We bought a half an acre land and developed it, and we sold about I think 12 or 13, 12 units outside. And we finished it in 15 months. It was a record work, 3-story, exposed brickwork and all these ideas. And it was well taken. It was sold out immediately. And next also, then people were looking at us and, these guys are doing some good work. And market started responding to us.
Tell us more about Malhar. What is the project and how did it develop? How did you go about developing it?
So I moved to Bangalore in 2000, and we were doing a design build. Basically, we design houses and institutions and also construct. So we are slowly picking up. One is the skill and the grip with the local materials and your craftsmen. All sort of a team had to be built. And so actually, I moved to Bangalore sort of bankrupt from Cochin, and because there was a recession, we made some investment. It didn't really work out, and there was a recession around 97, 98. We were hit by that. So, because as an entrepreneur, you go through the cycles of economic cycles of up and down, and so then that's why I moved to Bangalore. Then slowly we started getting more clientele, and we were designing and executing. It started growing. But this idea of building communities was there. I mean, how to create a community. And we didn't have the money. I mean, we were all broke at that
money
time.
should have been the major.
So it was by accident that, So then I realized money is not so important. That's also a realization. So when a couple of teachers from the school I mentioned where I put my children, and we were managing with the consultancies, and I did build in Bhopal, I did build in Indore. Actually, we did a project for the gas victims of Bhopal for an NGO working there. Some teachers from the school were looking for some plots to buy. Bangalore people invest in small plots, 30, 40, 60, 40, something like that. So they came to me for advice. And then I said, you're two guys, why don't you have some more people and we can build a community? And it just happened. We bought a 3-acre land together and built some houses. That was first development project in Bangalore. It was more for them we built, but it was a learning. Real estate is a very tricky thing. You have a land issues, litigations, fake documents, a lot of things to learn. And
documentation.
That project actually, yes. So you can, because our country is run like that. You are not sure about any property in the country unless you get a Supreme Court judgment.
Yes.
Any land is vulnerable. Something like that.
Any dispute will take.
Which I know how to solve it. Yeah, you have to be a little lucky. Sometimes you are not lucky. You get into trouble. Yes. So I gave a lot of. Then you started working with lawyers, understanding the local laws and rules and things. Then we did one project called the Orchard where I live. That was around 2004 or so. Then we didn't have the money again. So that's actually, as an entrepreneur, I would say, it's not money that is important. It's your confidence and your skill and the trust of the people. We gave
just one question I wanted to ask. Okay, you had financial trouble throughout. I mean, as many entrepreneurs face that At any point, did you ever
Yeah.
feel that I want to go back to a job and I will close everything and just be happy with the job?
Yeah.
At any point, did you?
Yeah. Many a time you doubt. Yeah. As an entrepreneur, many a point you get stressed with the financial issues. No. So you have to pay salaries to your team. You don't want to send them back with nothing. They have worked with you. I mean, that is what actually keep you going as an entrepreneur. There is it's like a family. A
Yeah,
small
they
organization
support you.
is like
Yeah.
a family. I felt many a time I have also doubted whether I took the real call. Is a business something? But you have a larger dream. You come with something to create, and you don't want to give up. You keep fighting, and you keep moving on. So coming back to Malhar, I did another project. I borrowed 5,000 rupees and gave the token money for the land, about 7 acres. Then we started talking to people. Then a lot of people knew our work and wanted to join this community, what we want to create. And they advanced funds, and we bought the land and developed, and we built 57 houses. I live there. So then our brand Bangalore people were seeing our work and quality of our work and the environment we create. And we did another project. Same story. I mean, entrepreneurs don't ever have money surplus with them. You always you are putting into something. And so then this So this land Malhar came. It's about 50 acres. It was too big for me to get into, for us to get into. But the landlord were an institution. We talked to them. We don't have a amount to buy, but you give us time. We'll do in phases, and we give some increment as the time moves on. We did the first phase in Malhar. It's called Footprints. And it was what do you call it? Footprints
and Malhar Resonance also.
It has won many awards.
Award.
Yeah. Many of our so this larger Malhar is actually made up of different communities. It's not one community. And I think it's also important. You should not create a large community. We say it's around 100. If you make it too big, 500 or 1,000, it becomes completely disconnected as a community. Whatever this idea Gandhi was saying, or Baker was saying, or Schumacher, small is beautiful. They all come the same similar school of thought. And it is very important for even enterprises to understand this statement, small is beautiful. If you scale up, it works in certain industry. But I think wherever there is creativity is involved, but design is involved, like a restaurant. If you make 1,000 restaurant, it will be a completely horrible thing. But you lose the design or the touch of it, So, so the scale is very important. So we went about Malhar in somewhere around 2009, 10 kind of time. And the first was 7 acres, and it was immediately sold out. And we built it. Then we signed up for the next parcel called Resonance. Malhar was a big learning on ecology and architecture, everything. So we tried all sort of ideas. It was probably the largest project in the world on mud blocks, stabilized mud blocks. And it is obviously India's largest. We have used about 6 million mud blocks and all hand pressed, creating so much employment. On similar to whatever Gandhi was saying or Baker was saying, I can proudly say it was something we really practiced, and we trained ordinary people.
You were using the mud from the site, right? You are using the mud from the site.
From the site. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. From the site.
So
that's the most sustainable way to build. Yeah.
You don't have to burn it for.
No, there is no burning. It is cement stabilized. You don't have to burn it. You don't have to burn it. And we partnered with IISc for the technical support. Yeah, Indian Institute of Science.
And there are
the design support for that. And
there are no issues with strength and constructing 2-story.
No. So you can actually design a block. What sort of strength you require? If it is a 2-story or 3-story, you can change the cement content and make it to your requirement. If it is single storied, you don't need to add too much cement, because the strength requirement of the bearing capacity of the wall is what you are looking at. It's all well engineered, and the challenge was the production. To meet our requirement, there was nobody to produce it. So we bought some 8 and 100 machines. Yeah, what you call the Astra machines from IAC. And we trained about 100 or 150 people as small groups. They come and produce and are supervising, monitoring the quality control protocols. Yeah.
Gujarat has presence in other southern states also, or other states of India as well?
No, we have presence in Bangalore, Cochin, and Calicut. Yeah, maybe all your business schools talk about scaling up, and I think many of them don't understand this. What goes into a
direct correlation between scaling up and bankruptcy. I mean, that is my contention.
Yes.
Anyway,
there is a relationship. So this is more of a what do you call a philosophical outlook to your business. Why do you want to scale up?
Yeah.
Are you looking at more money or more fame?
Absolutely.
Or are you looking at higher quality of work?
See that everybody in the world need housing, and we don't have enough space for everybody, to but horizontally spread. So you have also designed vertical green spaces, because in some places it's a necessity. You cannot use up all the space. It can cause a lot of damage to the nature. So how did you design the vertical spaces? What kind of out of the box thinking that your team members put in to develop kind of space?
See, in real estate, everything is dictated by two things. One is land cost and cost of your fund. These two things determine real estate, if I put it very simple. So if this is not in your control, this is a land price, because land is speculated, is an artificial price. So I am fundamentally against speculation. Like even stock market, I don't agree with that. I think if somebody putting some money and creating something, there is a profit, and he plows back into the business and activity, that makes sense. But somebody investing and speculating and make money, I don't relate to that. I have never invested in stock, and I will never invest also. And I think this is a more direct. You put some money into your work and you want to work. You want to work. You don't want to speculate. So land has unfortunately become a speculative commodity. And artificially the prices have gone up. And you cannot do anything with a high land cost. You lose all quality of your work. Actually, Kerala's big challenge now is because the land cost is high. Except some smuggled gold business, no other business is making profit. Something like that. I mean, you can't do anything. So then if you have a land cost at certain number, but say you have a city customer demand to build something, then you explore ideas. You have to go vertical. There is no other go. And there are already people who have explored these vertical greens, many forms. Actually, one is what we have done is creating terrace gardens, so that it's in the design you create, and the design has to be really very thought through, so that it doesn't create maintenance issues or other issues. And you create a space for everybody to enjoy some garden. It's possible to design and create. And we have built
you transfer the vertical space, horizontal space to the vertical direction.
You can grow. We have tried ideas on vertical garden. See, there are many guys across the world working like that. Even high apartment, you have a technique of it will have some initial cost, but you can stick vertical plants on the wall and have some sort of a fertigation where you irrigate with the fertilizer on the top, and it maintains nutrient requirement and moisture, and the plants do well. And what you see is as an external facade is only plants. I mean, you have seen in Singapore, and everywhere people have tried these ideas. So this is doable, but also you have to see that it is low maintenance. So we have gone very practical with these things. Our approach has been don't make it too complicated, because people will struggle with the maintenance. If I am doing something, I can maintain it with a lot of money, or spending a lot of money and effort. Plants will die, after a cycle. Then you have to replace, and replacement is on a vertical wall is very expensive. It will look fantastic initially, yes, but the maintenance becomes very, very expensive. Climbing the wall and replacement is not easy. There are many ideas, but I would still recommend India. You grow climbers, you plant them below and allow to climb on some trellis, and you have a green thing. It's far more simple than a very complicated. You can have any design on the wall with ferns, with orchids, and with a lot of plants, and anything is possible. You can create a texture, you can create different colors and all that. You know, it will look fabulous. But also you have to be very balanced with these ideas so that it doesn't become too expensive or too difficult to maintain.
Yeah.
So we have always gone with the simple maintenance because something as a developer, I think what shaped our design is also maintenance. We maintain for 2 years our campuses. So any flaw in the design will come back to you. You have to deal with it.
Yeah,
You know? Whether it's a structural issues or leaks or anything. You know, it has to be very well engineered. The design has to really come together.
Okay, you have shown more interest in, you know, in other areas too, like water conservation, rejuvenating dead rivers, cleaning up, recharging lakes, dried up rivers, etc., and in measures to prevent floods, etc. Tell us more about, you know, what kind of work you are doing in these fields. It is all connected.
Yeah. So it's all connected. See, what we say holistic design. So everything is connected. So while doing Malhar, we wanted to do a water sustainable community so that it survives with its own rainwater. So how do you look at the design? So we got deeper into it, and of late, I have come across a good geologist who actually it was a lot of learning for me and our group to understand how do you look at geology as a primary design element. You know, the water holding capacity of the rocks below you. But in Malhar, we went a step further, scientifically understanding what is the amount of rainfall you get, how much you can store on the surface soil, how much you can actually do aquifer recharge. And that's a way to go for India. So you put it back, excess water into aquifer, you go in summer. So you put in and take out. That's more sustainable. And because it's and you don't, you can build up your groundwater, technically speaking. And we have started to work on that. And this community footprints has implemented it fully. And their water table is going up. And also it's not footprints alone, it's Pan Malhar. You map the aquifer. I think in urban planning, this is a very important thing. How do you design for a certain number of people in a city? And how much you can sustainably maintain or hold with the available rainwater. And some amount, if you want to augment, you will have to augment. But are you utilizing the water fully? So then I was always watching the lake construction in Bangalore. And we realized that, we also had the chance to involve in the Adayar Eco Park in Chennai. It was done by Auroville. And it was a friend who did it from Auroville. And we had provided some design support. But then while doing that project, I also came to understand that the edge of a water body is it's a soil, because that is where the ecology is. Where you have plants and insects and frogs and crabs and all sort of insect world is on the edge. So if you lose the edge, you lose the lake. So I was seeing all this artificial stone and concrete. In engineering, we are taught only about some wind force and wave action and protect the edge and all that.
Nobody talks
but
about
I was also seeing lakes in the forest. Nobody talks about plants. Engineering is completely disconnected with the ecology. So then I was also watching a forest lake and I started wondering how it's holding for so many centuries and what is it keeping it alive. Then you observe these things and you realize that you don't have to do all that. There is a way nature can retain its edges naturally. The vegetation can hold it. Luckily, our community is very driven by these ideas of sustainability, and they have initiated also many ideas. You have your green waste composted in your backyard, or even an apartment, you can do it with what you call earthen pots. So it's very simple. Then you have next is to deal with your rejects and recyclables. So there is an agency, a responsible organization who handles this. Outside, we have outsourced to them. All our communities have outsourced it. So they come and take the recyclables to responsibly. It may not be connected with the government. I feel a government should get out of waste management. It is the responsibility of the people. The pressure has to come on the individual to reduce waste. In the moment you start collecting and processing it, people are highly irresponsible. They started dumping, left and right. But I think that is, I had done some work when I was in Cochin about 20, 25 years ago, understanding how the waste management is handled, even those days. in around in the 90s, 95. Then I realized there is a lot of corruption in this, and nobody audits quantum of waste intensely. You want to get it out of your way, and instead of 5 trucks, they write 15 trucks. So the solution is individual take responsibility of his own waste. And I think I am now, even now, I'm trying to get the better design. When I will come to water, but I feel of late you have to design carry bags and things polyethylene, so that when you burn it, the byproduct is carbon dioxide and water. You don't produce dioxin and other things. It happens because you have other fillers in the plastic. So you can actually, or even your food packets can be this aluminum foil. You see that, and the problem is you have an advertisement on top a sandwich, which is plastic. Then it's very difficult to recycle it. If it is only aluminum, you see in certain products, they have some embossing as an advertisement on that, like certain coffee and tea brand you find. I think that's a better way. This color and the pigments and the plastic, which is sandwiched to the aluminum foil to make it cheaper, and make it extremely difficult to recycle. Otherwise, aluminum alone can be easily recycled and recovered. So there is a design solution to it. You have a design for the packing. The government should do. Your packing should be of this standard, or only use polyethylene, don't mix with chlorine and other products. Then you can easily recycle it, you burn it, there is no pollution in it. There is a detail to be developed with the local farmers, how to manage your environment. If you measure the rainfall properly and have a design for these areas, understand the geology, map the risky areas, and during a rainy season, July and August, people should shift from there to a temporary place and come back after the rains. That's the way we have to live with, because climate change is real. Rainfall is very high, and our land has lost the capacity to hold, because of a lot of soil erosion has historically happened with agriculture and development and intervention. But then rationalists come with an argument, even in forest there is landslide. Even in forest you can have landslide. You do not understand what sort of topography the landslide happens, where there is hard rock and loose soil on the surface. Landslide and high steep angle is prone to landslide. We in the environment circles also don't understand this science. They are going very superficially. I am quite frankly very disgusted with heated arguments this way, that way. Both actually don't understand ecology or the science behind ecology, environmental management. So the local knowledge which I am trying to implement is, in a landslide area, what sort of vegetation you must have. And you have to also take into confidence of farmers, because they have livelihood. So you have to have a set of deep-rooted trees, which actually anchor the surface soil to the rocks below, so it doesn't slide. And in a landslide area, water has to drain quickly. And you also need a ground cover species, like the cane and a lot of other plants, so which root system holds like a web and does not allow the topsoil to churn or go out and create fissures in the topsoil and water get in and create landslide. You need to have a vegetation to protect your soil, and water drains out, and you have to design your drainage very carefully. You don't block it with roads and construction, so that drainage happens very easily, drains out. Very often, the road construction is a culprit of landslide.
What about
so this local knowledge of the trees and vegetation is very crucial. Yeah, very crucial, which nobody knows. That's where what you call the technocrat or technology people get lost. They have no connected with agriculture. So coming back to state, to design something, you need to know geology, you need to know civil engineering, you need to know agriculture, you need to know ecology. Then something is possible.
Yeah,
you can create a solution.
Brings me to the question. Our engineers, designers, planners, they are not taught any of these things in a holistic manner, because you are a person who has a holistic view about all this, and you are able to establish the connections, the links between these two, and do your design in that way, so that you cause the least damage to the environment. So how our budding engineers, designers can get these skills, at least have that kind of an approach in their design, because none of the technology institution teach that in a very comprehensive manner.
So I think we need to have a completely overhauling of our educational, how we teach right from schools. And I think you need to involve into a faculty. You need to involve farmers into these things. Why should not a farmer teach agriculture? These are small tips, and which is very important, And what is the timing of your planting, which is very crucial, season to season. And this is something in agriculture science is very big. But I think I find in the educational system, generally, I would say only people with some years of practice should teach, is my view on it. I mean, without offense to anybody. I feel first 40 people should start teaching. I mean, then you have acquired some skill or 10 years practice in any domain. Then you are teaching to have a different quality altogether, because it's the heart, because you are teaching to know. And many, I feel, I'm not blaming anyone, but because that is how a system is, it's a systemic failure. I mean, you come into teaching and you teach subject which you are not thorough with. You know the theory, but I think mastery of any subject comes with theory and practice. I found observed that our medical education is better. That's why still Kerala is doing better with your healthcare, because all these doctors who teach are also practicing. But you don't find that in engineering or in agriculture. You don't find farmers teaching in
agriculture.
So this is a major flaw.
It's really unfortunate that a large majority of housing projects, they aim at volume, fast, selling these projects and making quick profits. So ultimately, what happens is people are ignorant. They just close their eyes towards the impact of massive housing and commercial real estate project on the environment. They realize it too late when a disaster happens, just like in the Chennai floods, and in what we see in Kerala also, the flooding. They realize it only when a disaster strikes. So, I mean, we discussed many things which are connected to this. So, what can we do? I mean, who will bell the cattle? As you said, the politicians are not listening, the media is not listening. The curriculum has problems. We convince the government, our people, on the need for a sustainable approach in living. This should be the concept in future. So, what is your long-term missions in this regard?
So I'm a small entrepreneur, but I can share my ideas are big. I feel which I'm working is that nobody stops me working in my area. I mean, decentralized in my watershed, which I'm working now. How to design a solution comprehensively, looking at flood and landslide. I mean, holistically. If I can do it in my area, which the Haridayarlam has said they are trying something, but I'm not leaving it. I will persist with it and see that it is implemented. Starting from the measurement of the rainfall of a region. Actually, today also we have trained some children with just cutting a plastic bottle usage of a rain gauge. It's very simple. And when a straight bottle, if you cut, then that's a rain gauge. So I have trained some 40 children here to start measuring the rainfall in their house. That's a starting point. Then they have enthusiastically started. After the one rainy season, we can compare. Is there a difference between my rainfall data and my neighbor? I mean, somebody 2 kilometers away, 3 kilometers away, if there is a difference. And there is difference. So this is a starting point of our design of flood. And this data is not available to the government. They have some weather stations here and there, which is not adequate. And all knowledgeable people are saying we need more measurements. Even our friends in the KCB and all these departments are telling me, why don't you push the government to have more weather stations, automatic weather stations to be implemented so that more data is available for design, because they are designing with the data which is wrong. And that's why we will struggle to design our dam management. The SOP cannot be developed unless you have more detailed data. And so I have started measuring flood levels, mapping with people. You mark with a date, what is the flood level in that river on a certain day. And you mark it with the painted, people have done it. So then you plot back to your design, with a certain rainfall, this is the flood level. You don't have to get into complicated land use plan and its absorption coefficient and all that. It's very simple common sense in my view. Because you have a rainfall data and you measure it against a bridge or a dam certain level. So this is the catchment. And you can actually work reverse and find the coefficient than struggling with the coefficient. It's a very simple thing. It's my common sense approach to it. And you can do this analysis across Kerala, across the globe. Provided you have a more measurement of rainfall, actual rainfall, and you have this measurement of the flood level. In Cochin, in Trivandrum, Karamana river always floods. So then you look at the flood analysis holistically. This is the quantum of water coming in a certain period of time. And how do you improve the water holding upstream? Then I would say you have to increase more pisciculture, grow more, which has more deep ponds for growing fish in the uplands, in the midlands. Then there is a water storage created. Apart from paddy fields, you can increase the water holding capacity. You compute this. What is the amount of water coming and how much you can store upstream, how much will come downstream. And if it comes, what is the potential level where the water level can grow? You can mark each and every house, what is the mean sea level of my house and what is the vulnerability of my house for a flood. You can design it. And in extreme cases, if there is a rainfall forecast coming, your house is going to flood 2 feet or 3 feet or 6 feet. You take a precaution. And this has to be, people have to be trained and manage their own lives. And I think this is what I call deconstructing technology, so that you simplify it, so that people are aware. You can set it up with the app, mobile app, and an alert call should go to every nook and corner of the state and country, so that your house is vulnerable, it's going to flood, or there is going to be a landslide. Then people can go on their own. These are ideas. I would say, for example, yes, and I think, actually, if I design leaders, then you can work with the college students. If they participate in the design, they all learn these things. It's you have a manpower with you. What is stopping you doing it? The only thing is who will lead, and the challenge is that I'm not part of the government. So government has a certain reservation of engaging me into this kind of thing. There is there is politics. There is also department people thinking that somebody outside is coming and making all noise or getting prominence on that. So I have decided to work from grassroots, which nobody can stop me. And I will work on my area. And once I establish certain progress on that, rest of the people can actually copy it or redesign their own region. For Trivandrum, there is a design. There is a Cochin, has to be a different design. So you will come to know holistically what is every house ka potential flood risk. And you set up the standard and educate people, and on a mobile app, this should be locally known, and this region is going to be flooded.
That's a very useful suggestion.
And all that. That's how we have to manage it.
Yeah, in the times of COVID, we have an app showing the details. Just like that, yes. I mean, this is a very good suggestion. That and also.
This should be decentralized, is what I'm saying. It should be at a panchayat level. This kind of information. And this app is a very simple to design. And I think the government can invest, anybody can fund it actually. It's not a big deal. This measurement, design, analysis, and what we call the management protocols to safety of our people and environment. It can be done. It's doable. I think NRI is like you when you come back. My request is that I always say this, people come back, get into something like this very creative and productive work. And, once people are in the semi-retired or retired mode, there are still you have 20 or 30 years or 40 years more to run. So keep yourself involved in these things, And there are, because I started early and I know this is a goldmine of, India is a goldmine of opportunities. You have so much to do and you have so much people and, and keep yourself occupied and doing productive work. And so I'm trying to establish certain standards at a doable format. So it's not complicated with too much technology or science. And there is technology, there is science, but it's more simpler. You don't confuse people or scare people with the technology. You deconstruct it, make it simple. And So for example, I would say the flood analysis can be done by even school dropouts. If they are trained to read a certain AutoCAD and some measurement, it's only mathematics. No? It's a multiplication analysis.
It's a matter of training them. It's a matter of training them. And
yes, it's a matter of training in them and giving the leadership.
So, and as to sum up this, the last question which I would like to ask you is what kind of leadership you believe in. You initially said that you have read Gandhiji, you have read Tolstoy, you have read,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
also you believe in the
Yes,
decentralization. So what is the kind
yeah,
of leadership the world should have further? Because just now you were saying that people are not listening, but they themselves can take some initiative
yeah,
and bring
yeah,
change into the society. So
yeah,
what kind of
yeah,
leadership do we have now? What kind of leadership you believe in, which will help the society to move forward.
yeah. Yeah, I think leadership should be, one is humble. Humility is very, very important,
Hmm.
and compassionate.
Hmm.
These are two traits I would say for any of leadership material. I
Hmm.
think very often I see this arrogance spoils everything, however somebody is talented.
Hmm.
But I would say future, which I also look at myself, more detached people, I would say spiritual, not in the, who are not religious, in the
Hmm.
sense that is something I have shaped my view. So I have interacted with the Sufis. I have interacted with people in different areas into philosophy and spirituality.
Hmm.
And I have found that religion is a waste of time, and I am not part of the religion.
Hmm.
And something which struck me reading J. Krishnamurti is that he has very categorically said, the truth can be sought by an individual, not an institution. The moment you make an institution, it becomes a set of compromise, and authority and hierarchy, everything comes into the picture.
Hmm.
And it kind of kills the creativity or the, what you call, the
Individual.
compassion of the organization.
Hmm.
It happens across. So I have now concluded creativity is there in the individual, not in the institution. So government cannot be creative, but individuals in the government can be creative.
That's the
So
point.
I will put my faith in the individual creativity.
Hmm.
So, for example, you can sing, but can you appoint a singer by PSC test? Can the government do it? Can the government recruit somebody through PSC test and ask him to produce a film like Porozova or Bergman?
No.
You recruit the highest ranking guy. So, actually, in fact, creativity doesn't function like that.
Hmm.
And in my organization, I have somebody in the board who is a carpenter. I have the freedom to do it. Can the government do it? So we have created a, what you call, a very hollow superficial establishment, which has no
Hierarchy.
creativity in that sense.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fundamental problem. You have only hierarchy and power, and you have a kind of set of people who are so, what you call, so drunk with power, whether in politics or bureaucracy or anywhere you find these people, even amongst activists, I find them. There is
Yeah.
assertion of power.
Yeah.
So I think as a leadership, I think non-violence is non-negotiable, and it comes with humility and compassion. And if across the globe you create leadership, you all who are violent, obviously war and conflict is a byproduct, no? Then you have all human misery. So I think non-violence is non-negotiable. I think that's something I will hold on to. Anybody, if you see the trait of violence in any leader, he is not fit for that job. He'll create more havoc in the society and create violence. That is taken
Violence
for,
is
when
not
you
that.
can actually write it down, it will happen.
Yeah.
So if I critically look at the way politics evolve in the country, everybody is doing growing in politics with student politics, throwing some stone and destroying public property or some violence and all that. This violence is actually growing in them, and then they get into become MLA or minister or chief minister or prime minister with no skill in any of the domains, any work in the, what do you call, apart from politics, then it becomes a liability to the society. This is a universal phenomenon. I think we get into argument, but I think what is needed is conversation. And without humility, there is no conversation possible with anybody. I have found that you can converse with anyone. I have traveled across India doing some of this water work and river projects and all that. So I have traveled deeper into village pockets, and I have seen life and people very differently. I think there is a goodness in people which I want to work with. Maybe there is a violent streak in every individual. You don't engage with that part of the individual. You look at people as people with love. You don't look at the person with what he speaks or what he writes. It's not. I don't look at it that way.
Thank you for being with us. You have shared a lot of information, a lot of insights. and a lot of lessons to the viewers. And see if in the first rain, the soil smells, something that gets into the nerves of a farmer. But you need to be on the ground to feel and experience it.
Yeah.
It is not possible if you sit in ivory
Yeah.
towers,
Yeah.
above a hierarchy of institutions.
Yeah.
So we have to come down to the grassroots to understand the
Yeah.
problem. And, as an individual, you have a responsibility towards, the society. So these are the
Yeah.
takeaway
Yeah.
from, the
Yeah.
talk of today. Thank you so much, Stanley, for, sparing us much time.
Yeah, one more thing you said about the smell. It's called a petrichor.
Petrichoria, yes.
Petrichor, that
Yes.
smell of earth.
Yeah,
Rain.
smell of a
Yeah.
petrichoria.
I will consider there are two things which trouble people: fear and greed. So once you overcome that, I think every individual has immense potential to explore and make the world a better place, a non-violent, more caring, and
Yeah.
with more equitable justice.
Yes. When the individuals are better, well-natured, then you get good leaders.
Everything happens.
That is the mission.
I will put faith in the individual. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.